Sergeant Dane Riker stood on the shining crystal tiles of Unity Plaza, far from the dust and smoke of battles he hoped were finished. 3 months earlier, humans and Valari had signed the Great Truce, and today's festival was meant to prove old enemies could live as friends. Silver air skiffs drifted above the crowd like lazy whales, casting cool ovals of shade across rows of Terran blue and Valari green banners. Vendors sold iced fruit sticks, children waved tiny hologram flags, and every news drone focused its lens on the central stage. Dane wore a stiff white jacket he disliked, helmet under one arm, pulse rifle locked on his back. He tried to look calm, yet habit kept his shoulders firm and his eyes always moving. The Valari were tall and slender, their skins scattering light in gentle pastel flashes. They spoke aloud for courtesy, but everyone knew they also brushed against nearby thoughts, tasting feelings like faint music. Queen Selavara waited on a vine-covered platform, hands resting on an orb that glowed with living light. Beside her stood Princess Aralindra, only 19 in Earth years, quick to smile at any stranger who met her curious gaze. When she moved, strands of silver hair caught the sun and sprayed tiny sparks of color that thrilled the crowd. Human diplomats whispered that she, more than any treaty, might guide both peoples toward deeper trust if fragile peace survived. Dane's job seemed simple on paper. Stand with the honor guard and make sure nothing went wrong. Yet the ceremonial jacket pinched his shoulders, and the constant hum of bright minds around him stole the air from his lungs. Captain Liao, head of the Marine detachment, marched the line, muttering into a wristcom, back straight. Weapons unsafe. The galaxy's watching. Across the aisle, a line of Valari soldiers faced them, crystal spear points held high. Polished boots met soft sandals. Alloy plates met woven silk armor. Some Valari avoided human eyes, afraid one harsh memory might crack the delicate truce. Dane let his gaze sweep every balcony, counting perches where a rifle could hide. A fanfare, half human brass, half Valari crystal harmonics stilled the plaza. Queen Selavara lifted her arms, and her speech rolled out in Terran standard, Valari. Song speech, in neutral trade, can't. She spoke of shared soil, open skies, and courage to forgive the past. When she finished, Princess Aralindra stepped forward with a woven starlight garland for Earth's ambassador, Reyes. Cameras zoomed so close Dane saw her pulse beating at her neck. The princess smiled, promising a new chapter, and at that very instant, every lamp in the square blinked dark. Blackness swallowed the stage. One heartbeat later, the lights returned, but Aralindra was gone. In her place drifted blue-white dust, fading like embers on the wind. Panic spread like ripples on water. Valari guards snapped spears outward, forming a wall. Human marines crouched low, sweeping rifles across balconies. Terran tourists screamed while Valari civilians clutched glowing prayer stones. Dane felt a flood of telepathic probes brush his mind, sharp with fear and blame. He pushed calm thoughts forward so no Valari mistook his focus for anger. On the stage, he spotted a torn ribbon from the garland and a smear of glow pollen, the kind found only in the Nibur jungle beyond the Capitol Dome. Whoever took the princess had planned well and moved fast. Dane flipped his rifle from parade safe to combat ready and waited for orders that were slow to arrive. Minutes later, the dignitaries crowded inside a mobile command pavilion. Holoscreens replayed the blackout, but every feed cut off at the keyframe. Words turned sharp. Some Valari nobles blamed a human rebel group called the Breakers, claiming they wanted war reborn. A few Earth officials muttered that Valari purists feared mixing blood and staged the abduction themselves. Queen Selavara's cheeks were pale, yet her voice never cracked. "Find my daughter before second moonrise," she said, and silence fell. Captain Liao drafted joint patrol orders, but forms moved slower than kidnappers, and twin suns were already sliding west. Dane felt the seconds strip away like water from a cracked canteen. At last he stepped forward, helmet under his arm, and saluted both commanders. "Request permission to pursue now, Captain." The glow pollen fades by nightfall. Valari General Rethrin frowned. "The Nabra is sacred." Its minefields twist outsiders' thoughts. Dane met his gaze. With respect, General, my unit crossed wormfire swamps on Delta Perseus. We adapt fast. Give me a local scout, and I'll follow the trail before it's lost. The Queen closed her eyes, perhaps tasting the resolve in his thoughts. Moments later, she nodded. Go, Sergeant Riker. Bring my daughter home. A mother's order could not. As twin suns bled orange across the horizon, Dane reached the tree line where polished city stone met living wild. Bioluminescent vines already pulsed between gigantic roots, sketching ghost blue paths into mist. A young Valari scout named Thalon waited, ripple blade folded at his hip and a sensor disc in hand. Your heartbeat is loud, Thalon whispered, touching his temple, but it is honest thunder. I will follow. Dane offered a brief grin, slid a fresh power cell into his rifle, and activated a wrist beacon to log his track. Insects cried overhead, and city lights behind him dimmed. Saving one princess might secure peace for billions, he thought. He drew a steady breath and stepped beneath the ancient trees, vanishing into luminous night. The jungle of Nebra was unlike anything Sergeant Dane Riker had seen before. The trees were taller than city buildings, their trunks glowing softly in blues and purples. Strange vines moved slowly, almost like they were alive, reacting to touch, and even thought. The air was warm and heavy, filled with the sounds of distant animal calls and the constant humming of unseen insects. Dane kept his rifle ready and his eyes sharp. He wasn't afraid, but he knew this place would not forgive mistakes. Beside him walked Thalon, the young Valari scout. Thalon moved like water, quiet, smooth, confident. His bare feet made no sound on the soft moss. Every now and then he knelt and touched the ground or leaned against a tree to listen with his mind. Dane didn't understand how the Valari sensed things, but he respected it. Right now they needed every advantage. The trail is fresh, Thalon said in a whisper, glow pollen from the princess's dress, and broken leaves. Not walking. Dane nodded. How far? Maybe 2 hours. The kidnapper moves fast, but not fast enough. Dane tapped his wrist console. Command, this is Sergeant Riker. We're on the trail. No contact yet, proceeding deeper into Sector 12. The signal barely reached out here, but someone might pick it up, he hoped. They moved quickly but carefully. The deeper they went, the more alive the jungle felt. Thalon warned him. Don't let your thoughts wander. This forest has memory. It listens. Dane didn't reply, but the words stayed with him. As they crossed a shallow stream, images flashed in his mind battlefields. Screams fire. His worst moments from Earth's wars. He shook his head and blinked. It was the jungle, trying to distract him. Focus. Save the girl. Suddenly Thalon raised a hand and dropped to one knee. Dane followed, scanning the area. A soft clicking sound came from up ahead, breathing mechanical. Trap. Drone. Thalon. Whispered Primitive. Not Valari. Human design. Dane narrowed his eyes. Breakers. Most likely. The Breakers were a rogue human group, soldiers who refused peace and believed Earth should rule the stars by force. They hated the Valari and hated the treaty even more. If they had the princess, this was more than a kidnapping, it was a message. We disarm it? Dane asked. Thalon shook his head. Go around. Quieter, they took a longer path, circling the trap. As they moved, the forest grew darker. Moonlight from the twin moons above barely reached the ground. The jungle canopy was thick and alive with shadows. Dane switched his helmet visor to night vision. Then they heard it. A sharp scream, quick, full of fear, cut through the air. Was close. That's her, Dane said, already moving. Thalon followed. They broke into a run, crashing through vines and undergrowth. Dane pushed branches aside with his rifle, not caring about the noise now. Another scream echoed, followed by a sharp blast of energy. A gunshot. They reached a clearing surrounded by thick vines and glowing trees. In the center stood a metal structure, an old drop pod, half buried in moss. Two humans in dark armor stood outside, guarding it. One held a long-barrel blaster. The other had a device in his hand, some kind of control unit. And in front of them, tied to a stone root, was Princess Erelindra. She was awake but weak, her head drooping forward. A shimmer surrounded her, the remains of a psychic shield, broken by force. Her pale skin had lost its light, and her hair was tangled with leaves. Dane took cover behind a tree, signaling to Thalon to circle left. "We do this fast and clean," he whispered. "I'll take right. You go for the one with the controller." Thalon nodded once, then vanished into the shadows. Dane waited, steady in his breath. His rifle hummed quietly in his hands. The jungle buzzed around him like it was. Holding its breath, then he moved. He burst out from the side, firing a quick stun round into the first guard. The man dropped instantly, his armor sparking. The second turned, raising his blaster butt. Thalon was already there, his ripple blade slicing through the control device. Sparks flew, and the man backed away, shouting. "Back off," the rebel yelled. "You don't know what you're doing." "I know enough," Dane said, leveling his rifle. "You touch her again? You're not walking out." The man hesitated, then tried to reach for a second weapon, but Dane shot first. Another stun round. Clean, non-lethal. The man collapsed. Thalon rushed to the princess. Her mind is clouded, but she's alive. Dane knelt beside her. "Princess Erelindra, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, confused. You're the human soldier from the plaza." "Right," he said gently. "You're safe now. We're getting you home." A faint smile touched her lips before she lost consciousness again. Dane picked her up carefully. She was lighter than he expected, like carrying a bundle of silk. He turned to Thalon. "We have to move, fast." They left the clearing moving. Back through the jungle, Dane stayed alert, rifle ready, but no one followed. The forest seemed to recognize what they had done. The path ahead glowed just a little brighter. As they walked, Dane looked down at the princess. He'd fought in wars, lost friends, and seen the worst of humanity. But in that moment, carrying a girl who had trusted him without words, he felt something new. Hope, and far above, in the sky of Varelia, the twin moons shone brighter than ever. The sky over Varelia was still dark when Sergeant Dane Riker and Thalon reached the edge of the silent grove. Deep part of the jungle where even the air seemed to whisper in ancient voices. Thick vines hung like curtains, and the trees stood close together, glowing faintly with soft blue light. The forest here wasn't just alive, it was watching. Dane adjusted the grip on his rifle. In his arms, Princess Erelindra slept, her body weak, her breathing shallow. Her skin was pale, and the gentle shimmer that usually danced across Valari's skin was barely visible. Thalon placed a hand on a stone marker at the grove's edge. "We are close to the heart of the forest," he said quietly. "This place is sacred to the Valari. Only those who are chosen may pass without losing their minds." Dane looked ahead. The path was narrow and twisted, barely more than a trail of soft moss lit by glowing plants. "We don't have a choice," he said. "She needs help. And we're not safe out here." Thalon nodded, though his eyes held doubt. "Then you must face the trial of the grove." Dane frowned. "What kind of trial?" "The forest will see your thoughts, your fears. It tests your truth. If you hide something, if you carry hatred or anger, the grove will show it to you, and it can break even the strongest minds." Dane looked down at Erelindra. "Take that risk." He followed Thalon into the grove. The moment he stepped past the stone marker, everything changed. The jungle grew quiet. No insects, no birds, not even wind. Just silence, deep and heavy, like stepping into a dream. The glowing plants pulsed slowly, like heartbeats. The air felt thick. Dane kept walking, holding the princess close. Behind him, Thalon followed with quiet steps. Then it began. A voice not spoken aloud, but inside Dane's head echoed like a memory. "You failed them, Riker. Just like before." He stopped. The forest around him twisted. Suddenly, he wasn't in the jungle anymore. He was on a battlefield dart. Earth. 10 years ago, his unit was pinned down. Smoke everywhere, explosions, screams, and in the middle of it all, Private Hale, bleeding, calling for help. Dane remembered this moment. He had turned back to save someone else and didn't reach Hall in time. The memory hit like a punch to the chest. "You left him," the voice said again. Dane gritted his teeth. "I couldn't save both. I made a choice." The jungle pulsed. The battlefield faded. Scene shifted again. Now he saw Valari civilians, frayed, running during the early days of the war. A young Valari girl stood in the middle of the road, crying as human soldiers marched past. And there was Dane, walking by, cold, focused, not stopping to help. He clenched his fists. "We were told they were enemies. We didn't know better."
God!
"Now you do," the voice replied. "And still, do you carry peace or just guilt?" Dane dropped to one knee, feeling the weight of all the memories. "I can't change the past, but I'm trying. Right now, I'm saving her. I'm protecting life, not taking it." The silence returned. Then slowly, the light in the grove softened. The trees seemed to shift, opening a path forward. "You have spoken truth," the voice whispered, "and you may pass." Dane stood up, breathing heavily. He looked back. Thalon nodded at him with quiet respect. "You passed," the scout said. "Few outsiders ever do." Dane gave a small nod, then looked at Erlindra. Her eyes were open. Now, but unfocused. "She needs healing," he said. "Fast." At the heart of the grove stood a healing stone, a living crystal, shaped by the Valari centuries ago. It pulsed with warm light, reacting to the presence of pain. Thal-En helped. Dane placed the princess on the smooth surface. As her body touched the crystal, the glow spread gently across her skin. Her breath deepened. The shimmer returned to her face. Her fingers twitched. "She's responding," Thalon said. Erlindra opened her eyes fully. She looked at Dane and whispered, "You came for me." He smiled. "Of course I did." "You went through the trial," she added softly. "I felt it, the grove. It accepted you." Dane nodded. "Not an easy test." She reached up and gently touched his hand. "Thank you for not giving up." Before more words could be spoken, Thalon touched his communicator. "Signal from the capital. They found the rebel camp. Fighting has stopped. The queen is safe. And she's asking for you." Dane picked up his rifle and looked at Erlindra. "Are you strong enough to travel?" She nodded slowly. "With help." Thalon activated a beacon. A soft hum filled the air, calling for a med transport. In minutes, a sleek Valari skiff arrived, descending like a quiet bird among the trees. As Dane helped Erlindra aboard, she turned to him and said, "My mother will want to honor you. But I already know the truth." "What truth?" "You don't just fight for humans. You fight for what's right." The skiff lifted into the sky, gliding above the glowing trees. Below, the silent grove faded into mist once more, and above them the stars began to shine. The Valari capital city, Lunrith, looked different when Sergeant Dane Riker returned. Before, it had felt distant and strange, a city of floating towers, glowing bridges, and silent mines. It felt familiar. Maybe it was because he had walked through fire and shadow to bring the princess back. Or maybe it was because the people no longer looked at him with fear. They looked with respect. The royal medskiff landed in the Queen's private skyport. Guards stepped forward, but not with weapons drawn. They stepped aside to let Dane carry Princess Erlindra himself. Her strength had returned slowly during the flight, but she still leaned on him as they walked toward the palace. Valari citizens lined the skywalk below, watching. Some clapped softly. Others placed glowing stones at the edge of the path, an ancient Valari symbol of thanks. Dane kept his focus on the path ahead. Inside the palace, Queen Selavara waited at the Hall of Harmony. She stood tall, her royal robe flowing like water, her eyes sharp and full of emotion. When Dane entered, still carrying Erlindra, the room fell into silence. The queen stepped forward, arms out. "My daughter," she whispered. Erlindra gently stepped down from Dane's arms and walked into her mother's embrace. They held each other for a long time. Dane looked away, giving them a moment of peace. Then Selavera turned to him. "You carried her through danger. You passed the trial of the grove. You faced enemies of both our people. And you chose to save life instead of seek revenge?" She stepped closer. "Dane Riker of Earth, how should we honor you?" Dane was silent for a moment. Everyone in the hall waited for his answer. "I didn't do it for honor," he said. "Finally, I did it because it was right." The queen nodded slowly. "That is why the Valari will honor you more than you expect." She raised her hands, and a golden beam of light formed above Dane's head, shaped like the twin moons of Varelia. Soft music filled the air, pure tones that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "I name you Starkin," the queen said. "The highest title given to any being outside the royal bloodline. You are now part of our legacy, our history, and our future." Gasps filled the chamber. Even Valari nobles, dressed in shining robes and armor, looked surprised. Becoming Starkin was rare. For a human, it was unheard of. Dane blinked. I don't understand. What does that mean?" "Means," the queen said, smiling gently, "you are now more than a soldier.
Now you are.
You are a symbol of trust between our worlds. You are family to the royal line." Dane tried to speak, but no words came. He had never wanted fame or titles. He had never thought of himself as a hero. But now he was something new. Later, in the private gardens of the palace, Dane stood alone near a small pond. Glowing fish swam beneath the surface, and tall flowers reached for the stars above. The night was calm, but his thoughts were not. Footsteps approached. It was Erlindra. She wore a simple robe now, her crown removed. Her hair shimmered in the moonlight. "You disappeared after the ceremony," she said gently.
"I needed
"Air," Dane replied. "You saved me twice," she said, stepping closer. "Once from the rebels, and once from the darkness in the grove." "I didn't know if I'd make it through," he admitted. "The grove showed me things. Things I've tried to forget." "It does that," she said. "It shows truth even when we don't want to see it. But you passed. That means your heart is strong." Dane looked into the pond. "I've done things I'm not proud of, so have I," she said. "But today you gave me hope. Not just for myself, but for what our peoples can become." They sat beside the water, silence resting between them. After a while, she asked, "What will you do now?" "I don't know," Dane said. "I was just a soldier. Now I'm something else. But I still want to protect people." Erlindra smiled. "Then stay. Help build something better. Help lead." He turned to her. "You think a human can lead here?" "I think," she said, "you already have." In the days that followed, news of Dane Riker's bravery spread across Varelian to Earth. Articles, broadcasts, and Hallis shared the story of the human who saved a princess and became Starkin. Children spoke his name with wonder, stood straighter when they saw him. Valari elders, once cautious, now invited him to their councils. And through it all, Dane remained simple in his ways. He didn't wear royal clothes or demand attention. He helped train the new peacekeeping unit, made of both humans and Valari, teaching them not just how to fight, but when not to fight. He often walked with Erlindra in the gardens, talking about war and peace, about fear and hope. They became friends, and maybe something more, but nothing was rushed. One evening, as the sun set and the moons rose again, Dane stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Captain Liao approached. "I hear they're building a statue of you." "I asked them not to," Dane said. Liao chuckled. "Too late, Yar. A symbol now. I'd rather be useful than famous." Liao clapped him on the shoulder. "You've already done both." As stars filled the sky, Dane looked out over Lunareth. He had come here as a soldier. He stayed as something greater. A protector. A bridge between worlds. A man who had seen war and chosen peace. Asked ChatGPT. The royal courtyard of Lunareth Palace was filled with light and life. Thousands of glowing lanterns floated in the air like stars, and soft music played from crystal instruments. It was the day of the Unity Ceremony, a special event to celebrate peace between humans and Valari. But this year, the celebration was different. It wasn't just about treaties or promises. This year, it was about a single man who had changed everything. Argent Dane Riker. He stood quietly at the side of the stage, wearing a formal dark blue uniform gifted by the Valari Queen, unlike the parade uniforms of Earth's soldiers. This one had smooth patterns of light flowing across the fabric, symbols of bravery, peace, and truth. Dane didn't feel like a hero, but he had accepted the honor with respect. Across the platform stood Queen Selavara, tall and graceful, her royal cloak moving gently in the evening breeze. Her daughter, Princess Erlindra, stood beside her, her face glowing with quiet pride. The queen raised her hand, and the music faded. Silence fell over the courtyard. Citizens of Varelia, she spoke in her melodic voice, and honored guests from Earth. Tonight, celebrate not only peace, but the spirit of one who protected it with his own life. Yeah. She turned toward Dane. Sergeant Dane Riker, she said, you saved my daughter. Risked your life in sacred ground and showed honor even when no one was watching. You proved that the hearts of humans can be just as noble as their strength. Dane stepped forward, unsure what to say. He was used to giving orders, not receiving praise. The queen held out a small, glowing object, a golden crystal, shaped like a star, resting on a silver chain. This is the sigil of Varelia, she said. It has never been given to an outsider. But tonight, we offer it to you. Not because you are human, but because you are worthy. Dane bowed slightly as the queen placed the sigil around his neck. Soft applause spread through the crowd, growing louder and stronger until the entire courtyard echoed with cheers. When the noise faded, the queen added something that no one expected. With this title, she said, you are no longer only a guest of our world. I name you Royal Protector of the Crown, an official guardian of our royal family. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even Dane looked surprised. He had expected a medal, not a royal roll. He stepped closer and said softly, Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I don't understand. Why me? The queen smiled gently. Because you didn't ask for anything, yet gave everything. That is the heart of a true protector. From the side, Princess Erlindra watched, her eyes filled with quiet emotion. She remembered every moment of her rescue, the pain, the fear, and the strength in Dane's arms as he carried her through the jungle. He had not only saved her life, but showed her a kind of courage that no title could buy. Later, after the ceremony ended and the crowds returned to the city, Dane stood alone near a quiet pool in the palace garden. The glowing fish swam in gentle circles. Lanterns floated above the trees. He touched the sigil on his chest. It still felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. Footsteps approached. It was Erlindra. She wore a simple silver robe. Number crown. No titles, just herself. You look uncomfortable, she said with a small smile. Dane chuckled. I've fought in 3 wars, but standing on a stage is still the hardest thing I've done. She sat beside him. You were honest. It matters more than speeches. For a moment, they sat in silence. Then she said, Do you know what it means to be royal protector? Not exactly. It means you stand beside the throne and speak when others stay silent. It means you carry the weight of 2 worlds. I'm just a soldier, he said. No, she replied. You're more now. You understand both sides. You see people, not just uniforms? Dane looked at her. What about you? You're the future queen. What do you see? She hesitated, then said, I see a world where peace is more than a treaty. A world where humans and Valari learn from each other. But I also see fear, anger, resistance. Some Valari still don't trust humans. Some humans still think we're too different. And you think I can fix that? I think, she said softly, you already have, just by being who you are. A soft breeze passed through the trees. Erlindra turned toward him. You don't have to stay, I know, Dane said.
Oh.
But I want to. Why? Because I believe in what this place could become. And because, he paused, because I believe in you. She looked away, just slightly, her expression unreadable. But then she smiled, a quiet, honest smile. "Then let's build something. Better," she said. "Together." That night, while the stars above Varelia shone brighter than ever, a human soldier sat in a garden with an alien princess. No longer just a protector, no longer just a guest. He was a symbol. He was family. And his story was just beginning. 6 months had passed since Sergeant Dane Riker became the royal protector of Varelia. The galaxy had not returned to normal. Peace was still young, and not everyone trusted it. But for the first time in years, there was hope. Dane stood at the edge of the Unity training grounds, where Valari and human recruits trained together under the morning sun. Shouts and laughter filled the air as soldiers from two worlds learned to move as one. Shields clashed, blasters fired, practice beams, and teamwork formed where suspicion once lived. He walked between the training lines, correcting a Valari's stance, showing a human how to defend without anger, reminding them that strength was not just about weapons, but about choices. Across the field, Princess Erlindra watched with quiet pride. She no longer wore delicate royal robes, but simple training gear. Though still a princess, she had chosen to join the academy as a voice of peace and strength. Her presence made others try harder. She wasn't just a figurehead anymore, was a leader in action. Later that day, Dane met with the Queen in the Crystal Chamber, a high room filled with soft light and maps of the known galaxy. Queen Selavara stood before a floating display of stars. "Reports say breaker activity has dropped nearly 60%, she said, turning toward Dane. "Your peace unit is making a real difference." Dane nodded. "They're not just soldiers. Now, they're guardians. They believe in what they're protecting." The Queen smiled. "And so do I." She stepped closer. "But peace is not made only by patrols. It must be spoken into law, lived in trade, celebrated in art and school. Which is why tomorrow at the summit, I want you to stand beside Minot as a royal protector alone, but as Earth's peace delegate." Dane looked surprised. "I'm not a politician." "You're more than that," the Queen said. "You are trusted by both our worlds. You've proven that humanity can be more than warriors." He thought for a moment, then nodded. "If it helps keep the peace, I'll do it." That night, in the palace gardens, Dane sat beside Erlindra once again. The moonlight bathed the flowers in silver, and the air was cool and calm. "I heard you're speaking at the summit," she said softly. "Didn't have much of a choice," he replied with a half-smile. "Your mother is very persuasive." Erlindra laughed gently. "You'll be great." "I don't like the attention," he admitted. "You don't need to like it," she said. "You just need to be yourself. It's enough." They were quiet for a moment. Then she looked at him with honest eyes. "Do you regret staying?" He looked up at the stars, then at her. "No," he said. "I came here as a soldier. I stayed because I saw something worth protecting. Not just a princess. Not just a planet. But an idea that maybe, just maybe, we don't have to keep repeating the past." She smiled. "That's what I believe too." The next morning, the Galactic Unity Summit began. Representatives from dozens of worlds filled the spire of Accord, a shining tower in the center of the capital. Holograms translated every word, every breath. Media drones floated silently overhead. Queen Selavara stood at the center, dressed in robes of silver and deep violet. At her side stood Dane Riker, wearing the sigil of Starkin over his chest and the quiet confidence of someone who would walk through fire. She raised her hand and the chamber grew still. "We gather today," she said, "not to sign another paper, but to build trust. True peace does not come from ink and titles. It comes from action, from sacrifice, from hearts that choose unity over fear." She stepped back. Dane took her place. He looked at the crowd, a mix of alien and human faces. Some smiled, some waited in silence. A few looked doubtful. He cleared his throat. "My name is Dane Riker. I was a soldier. I've seen what war does. I've seen planets burn and good people fall." He paused. "But I've also seen something else. I've seen a young princess risk her life for her people. I've seen enemies become allies. I've seen soldiers put down their weapons, and offer hands instead. He took a breath. Peace is not easy. It's a daily fight against hate, against fear, against old wounds that still bleed. But it is worth fighting for. It's not because we are the same, but because our differences can make us stronger together. Silence followed. Then slowly, one person clapped, then another, and another. Soon, the entire hall was filled with applause. It wasn't loud or wild, but deep, meaningful. Later that night, Dane stood once again on the balcony of the palace. Erlindra joined him, her eyes shining with emotion. "You did well," she said. "I just told the truth." That's what made it powerful. They looked out at the stars, now shared by two civilizations. The world had not changed overnight, but something important had begun. "You know," she said quietly, "someday, this will be history. They'll tell stories about it." Dane smiled. "Then I hope they tell it right. Not about heroes, but about people who tried." She turned to him. "And what will you do now?" He looked at her, then back at the stars. "Keep trying," he said. "Every day." And with that, the soldier who came as a guest, who became a protector, who spoke for peace, stood beside the future queen not as a warrior, but as a symbol of a future that no longer feared the unknown. A future where peace was not a dream, but a choice. It's made again and again, together.